All across the gaming industry, we're seeing many studios fail with their latest releases after they openly embrace DEI and other things like that. A recent example is with Ubisoft and how Star Wars Outlaws failed to capture audiences, and their upcoming release Assassin's Creed Shadows look like it's going to be more of the same, but despite all this, they're doubling and tripling down on this after they announced that they're going to have a DEI program or a DEI mentorship program trying to exclude white males because I don't know why they think that they don't produce quality content. And that's kind of been a big problem with many of these studios when they embrace this stuff is they're not necessarily hiring the best people for the job. They're just hiring people in order to fit quotas and check boxes off the list. But obviously it didn't work out too well for Ubisoft, but we're also seeing other companies starting to embrace similar practices. We got this article right here from Bounding Into Comics talking about CD Projekt Red, the developer behind The Witcher and Cyberpunk 2077, because now they're also going to have their own version of the DEI mentorship program as well. Cyberpunk 2077 developer CD Projekt Red opens applications for 2024 edition of annual Girls in Game mentorship program. And this is what the article has to say about this. It appears that there's something about the fall era that makes video game developers want to promote the concept of diversity and inclusion, as in the same month that Ubisoft is kicking off their own women and non-binary mentorship program, Cyberpunk 2077 developer CD Projekt Red has begun accepting applications for their similarly themed Girls in the Game initiative. And for the record, I don't have a problem with women wanting to work in the video game industry. I just have my doubts whether initiatives like this are the best practice in order to try to cultivate a talented workforce of people who are very passionate about gaming, because presumably if you really did have that passion and drive to work in the video game industry, then you wouldn't need something like this. You would just be doing it on your own. You wouldn't have to have the company basically go out and try to, I wouldn't say recruit talent because people are applying for this, but basically have to give this kind of a easy path to entry for them, so to speak. But let's continue on. Launched in 2021, the Girls in the Game program was developed in partnership between CD Projekt Red and the Polish-based nonprofit Perspektywa Educational Foundation, who, per their official website, dedicated a large portion of its attention to promoting partnership of women in the STEM education is the main specialization, as an apparent response to the game devs industry's demand for talented women. And is there really a demand for talented women within the gaming industry? Because if they're able to produce quality content with fewer women working in it, then I don't see a problem with that. I mean, unless they're saying like they're trying to actually bring in more people or more women into video games, which according to what they're saying here, that's not really the case, because some of the stats that they cite suggest that a sizable portion of women are fine playing video games, but they're also claiming that women are underrepresented within the video game industry. So apparently women can still be attracted to playing video games without needing to be represented. So this whole thing at best is just kind of unnecessary, and at worst it's cultivating an atmosphere of people who are untalented just for the sake of representation. Nearly 2.3 million women say they play console or computer games daily, and 22% of female gamers say gaming is their passion, explained the two companies in a blog post announcing the start of this year's program. However, among those working in game dev, women account for only 20%. The Perspectives Educational Foundation has been studying the situation of women in technology for years, both in Poland and around the world. And I was kind of wanting some more detail about these numbers, so I looked at that blog post that they have posted to their website, and this is what they say. So they're talking about Poland specifically. They say there's 17 million gamers within Poland. Of them, 47% or 8 million of them are women. We don't know what they necessarily mean when they say gamers. Do they mean someone who will play like typical games on console or PC, or just mobile games? Because a lot of the times when they say these stats, they're just talking about women who will play Candy Crush or something like that on their phones here and there. But for the sake of argument, let's just assume that these are talking about actual gamers, you know, ones who will play console or PC games. They say almost 2.3 million women will play a console or PC game daily. And they say of those, 22% say that gaming is their passion. So they might not, the 2.3 million women who play daily, that's roughly 13.5% of the population of this numbers right here. So if there's 17 million gamers, 2.3 million women say they play daily. That's 13.5% of those. Let's just round it up to 14% of them. 22% say that gaming is their passion. And they also say women constitute 20% of the gaming industry. So to me, that actually just seems kind of normal right there. If 22% of women describe gaming as a passion for them and 20% are willing to actually work in the gaming industry, I don't really see a problem. So if you're actually trying to make it more representative, where you're trying to say like, oh, well, no, we need to have 47% of the gaming industry being women, well, then that means you're going to be bringing in a bunch of people who aren't necessarily passionate about gaming, because the people who are passionate about playing video games already seem to be working in the gaming industry. So I don't see what they're trying to do with this, unless they're trying to push aside people, mainly men, in order to try to bring in women who don't really have the personal drive to do this. Because are there women out there who might want to work in the gaming industry who wouldn't be described as passionate about it? Well, yes, but is that really the best people to have for the job? People who are just like, yeah, I play video games and I like playing video games, but it's not really a huge passion for me to play video games. It's like, well, then maybe that's not the best job for you, because it's like, yeah, it's cool if you want to actually be involved in the video game industry. I don't have a problem with that. But I think you should actually bring in the best people for the job. And if you're just trying to bring in someone who just plays video games but doesn't have a passion for playing video games or developing video games, then you're going to have subpar work at best. At worst, though, you're going to have people who their true passion is, let's say, something like activism instead, and then they also like playing video games. So when you hire them to the company, well, then suddenly you have people who are trying to push activism in their projects. And we've seen that in recent years with a lot of this other DEI stuff, and it hasn't been working out for them. A lot of gamers reject that. So that's really ultimately to the detriment of the company, but they still try to maintain that it's for their benefit to actually have these check boxes working at the company. In service to the goal of fostering young talent, the 12-month-long mentorship program is aimed at high school students of all types, with a particular emphasis on candidates from smaller towns, and consists of a year-long training cycle and individual mentoring from experts from CD Projekt Red. And like I was saying before, I don't think this is necessarily the best approach if you're trying to cultivate the most talented and passionate people, because presumably if you actually do have a passion for game development, then you wouldn't need to see an ad like this and decide to apply for this type of program. I would think a person who is truly passionate about game development would have been already doing that sort of thing. Like, just think about it for a second. If you were a company looking for a new game developer, would you be better off hiring someone like this who was like, yeah, I saw this ad for this program, so I signed up for it, versus this other person be like, yeah, I've been creating my own video games since I was a little kid on my own without getting paid or anything like that, and these are what the games I've made. To me, that seems to be more impressive than someone who's just like, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I saw this program, thought it looked fun, so I decided to sign up for that anyway and do that. But this is also more exacerbated when they're artificially limiting it to just women, because then, yeah, sure, you might get the most talented women within that bunch, but it's just the most talented women. If you compare them to also males, if this was opened up to men as well, well, then, yeah, there's some women who might be in the mix, but then there's also some men in the mix. So that way you're only getting the most talented people working in this sort of industry. And to me, that's the biggest problem with this, and why I say a lot of the times when there's DEI with these companies, if it's in the games, it doesn't necessarily mean that's the reason why the games fail. It's because the culture at the company mandates that you're not necessarily bringing in the best people to work on the project. You're bringing in the best people within a particular demographic to work on the project. And if that's what you want to do, fine. I mean, you can get your representation, but the trade-off is you're not necessarily going to be producing the best quality content. And as a result, a lot of gamers will eventually abandon it. So even if they're not necessarily trying to push that activism stuff within the game itself, you're just going to feel that there's something wrong with the quality of the game. And that's because you're not having the best people working on the job. But that's what I think about all this and these initiatives like this. Let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. Do you think having stuff like this is actually good to try to bring more women into gaming and stuff like that? Do you think gaming industry as a whole benefits from having women work behind the scenes? Or do you think it should just be the most talented people work behind the scenes, and you shouldn't artificially limit it to just trying to get the best people who are also women? And if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with the latest entertainment news. And don't forget to click that like button and share this video out there, because it really helps out with the channel. Thank you.